Yo, 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 what is your boy? It's TK up in here. This is my friend, it's not me. Hold on, I gotta get this. Don't sit on. Don't. Alright. You already know what it is. It's CK. So let me get this straight. So already. This is my main channel. Alright, but we don't need to talk about this main channel right now. What I need to know is what gameplay should I do next? Cause I'm really bored. I don't know what gameplay do y'all want me to do next. I really don't know. I'm asking you to get y'all full attention to me, so I could tell you, so you could tell me what do you want to see next? Cause you know, I really don't know. See, look at all these YouTubers, right? I got a speculation. I would tell somebody, what should I play for a Pokemon game? If they say, wait, Pokemon Prism? It's Pokemon Prism. Hold on, let me look up Pokemon Prism right quick. Cause I wonder if that's actually a game. Pokemon Prism. Prism. Yeah, Prism. Alright. So I'm trying to figure out what kind of game is this? And why do they have it?
Table, wishes do come true. Sparks can fly at any moment.
Ooh, I gotta try that.
Sharing is a must.
Pokemon Prism.
Hey, what is up, heroes, and welcome to Pokemon Prism, the ROM hack Nintendo didn't want you to see.
Oh, I forgot, I don't have an emulator yet. I'm gonna hope to get an emulator, but I don't. I don't have an emulator yet, so that's the bad
Like me
part.
to share one of my treasures? Hell yeah, I'll take a treasure. It's a berry. An orange berry, to be specific. Pokemon loved it. Definitely do that right now. And when we can finally open up for a few layers, we have potions, so don't have to worry too much.
Alright, Pokemon Prism is not for me. What about Pokemon Emerald? Should I do Emerald? Because I heard Emerald. Yeah. Maybe I'll do Emerald. I don't know. Maybe I will. I don't know. Should I? I still don't know. I think Emerald is going to be a good game. I really think Emerald is about to be a good game. You know what? Instead of just waiting over here, I could play Emerald right now. Alright? I figured out the game that I should play, and it's Pokemon Emerald. So let's download the GBA or the APK or APK, whatever it's called, for John. I don't know. Pokemon Emerald. Wait, what is better? Pokemon Emerald, Pokemon Sapphire, Pokemon Ruby. Because that actually does matter. Pokemon Ruby, I don't know. What's so special about Pokemon Ruby? I don't know. I really don't know. But Pokemon Ruby... Well, hold on. Let me look at this. Let's see what's good about Pokemon Ruby or something. So what's up with Pokemon Ruby? I do not know. What's better, Pokemon Emerald, Pokemon Ruby, or Pokemon Sapphire? Which is better, Pokemon Ruby? Hold on. Is better. Didn't even mean to do that, but I still did anyway. Which is better, Pokemon Ruby? Which is better, Pokemon Ruby? Or Emerald. Emerald. Alright, this is gonna be helpful. Then I figure.
Eager for these videos to continue, huh? Well, it's okay, because I'm happy to oblige. So, we've already looked at all version differences in generations 1 and 2, so do you know what that means? It's time to move on to Hoenn. So that means that we're going to be taking a look at all of the version differences in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. Now, I've been super excited to make this video because these were probably the games that I played the most when I was little. So, I really hope that you enjoy watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. So we're going to be comparing Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, and then both of them to Emerald. So, let's begin! So of course, the first version difference comes with the intros. For the most part, the intros are the same but with very subtle differences. In Ruby, the main character is cycling with a forest in the background, and in Sapphire you can see the ocean instead. Which is pretty fitting considering Ruby and Sapphire's themes of land and sea respectively. In Ruby, Latios swoops past the player, whilst in Sapphire it's Latias, which also makes sense with them being exclusive to those versions. The only other difference in the intro would of course be the title screen featuring Groudon or Kyogre depending on the version. Ruby and Sapphire really aren't as heavy with version-exclusive Pokemon in comparison to previous games.
But can you get all three of them?
The Pokemon that are exclusive to Ruby would include the Seedot line, Mawile, Zangoose, Solrock, Groudon, and Latios. Whereas in Sapphire, you get the Lotad line, Sableye, Seviper, Lunatone, Kyogre, and Latias. The Eon Duo are technically version exclusives, but you can acquire both of them in each game if you have an e-reader and the Eon ticket, so it's a little bit of a grey area. A strange couple would be Duskull and Shuppet. While they aren't exactly version exclusives, Duskull can be found in a few more routes and at higher encounter rates than Ruby, and the same is true for Shuppet and Sapphire. The same can also be said for Plusle and Minun. While these two can only be found on
I think I'm gonna go for Ruby because let's go back to Ruby. Let's say they said
Kyogre, Mawile, Zangoose,
Mawile,
Solrock, Groudon, and Latios.
and
Whereas in
Zungos
Sapphire,
is all
you get the
good
Luxembourg,
Pokemon.
Sableye, Seviper,
But on the
Ponyta,
other hand, these are good
Kyogre, and
Pokemon
Latias.
too.
The Eon Duo are technically
But
version
I like-
exclusives, but you can acquire both of them in
like-
each game if you have an e-reader and the Eon ticket. So it's a little bit of a grey area. A strange couple would be
I see Duskhold, I'm definitely getting
While
it.
these two can only be found on one route, Minun has a much higher encounter rate in Ruby, and Plusle has a much lower encounter rate, while the opposite is true in Sapphire. Another two Pokemon that see this treatment would include Volbeat and Illumise, with Illumise being more common in Ruby, and Volbeat being more common in Sapphire. And to my knowledge,
Still
the final
going with
pair would be
Ruby.
Grimer and Kopping in Fiery Path, with Kopping having a higher encounter rate in Ruby, and Grimer having a higher encounter rate in Sapphire. Ruby and Sapphire were the first pair of games in
Ruby.
the series to have major version differences.
Coughing, if I get a
The
Mork
roles
or
of the two
something, I
villainous
wouldn't be mad
teams,
about
Team
that.
Aqua and Magma, are completely different in each game, though the story is pretty much the same no matter what version you get. The villainous team is trying to take control of a legendary Pokemon in order to alter the landscape and create their perfect world. But of course, in Sapphire, Team Aqua takes on this role, trying to use Kyogre to expand the oceans, giving aquatic Pokemon a larger habitat, which is their vision of a perfect world, which Team Magma opposed and tried to stop. Whereas in Ruby, the roles are reversed. Team Magma tried to take control of Groudon to expand the land, while this time Team Aqua are the ones on the sidelines opposing their plans. Another minor change regarding these teams would be the fact that the Lilycope hideout looks different in each version, clearly designed to represent which team resides there. But that's about it for Ruby and Sapphire, so let's roll on with Emerald. So, there's a much bigger difference with the intro this time. The beginning is pretty similar, with the player riding their bike. The background this time is the same as the one from Pokemon Ruby. Additions would include Torchic, Volbeat, and Manectric's team following the main character, and Flygon replaces Latios or Latias as a Pokemon flying overhead. The following scene has been completely changed to one featuring the Weather Trio, to better reflect the changes made to the main story. And of course, the title screen has been changed to feature Rayquaza, but is still in a similar style to Ruby and Sapphire's. But let's have a look at the changes that were made to obtainable Pokemon before you received the National Dex. Pokemon that were made unobtainable would include the Surskit and Meditite lines, as well as Roselia, Zangoose, and Lunatone. Interestingly, you can get both the Seedot and Lotad lines in Emerald, with them being placed like other pairs of Pokemon were in Ruby and Sapphire, with Lotad having a much higher encounter rate than Seedot. The same also goes for Mawile and Sableye, as they can now both be found in the same game, with Sableye being much more common than Mawile. Some Pokemon encounter slots aside from these have also been moved around too. An example of this would be Zigzagoon being removed from a ton of routes. Groudon and Kyogre are also now available in both games, being found in Terra and Marine caves respectively in the aftergame instead of in the Cave of Origin. Latios and Latias are no longer version exclusives, but you still only get one per game. The only difference being that you get a choice between the two. A huge change would be that once you complete the regional Pokedex, Professor Birch will let you have a Johto starter. There are actually more Johto Pokemon available after you get the National Dex, but we'll take a look at that once we get to new areas. As for graphical changes in Emerald, there's a lot to cover. We see the return of animated Pokemon sprites. All of the still sprites are the same as they were in Ruby and Sapphire though. The player characters were also redesigned to feature a green color scheme instead of red. This change can be seen in both the trainer and the overworld sprites. When the Weather and Reggie trios are encountered, this neat little animation showing their patterns is now shown. A lot of areas were also redesigned. Seriously, there are so many tiny components that were redesigned, it's crazy. From water,
I think
roads to
Emerald
trees,
is better
flowers,
than
roofs,
all of
windows,
them.
ground, cave floors, there's so much, it's
Emerald,
insane.
I should go
If
with
I listed
Emerald.
every single area that looks different, I'd be here all
I
day.
think I would prefer Emerald over
Battle Royale.
Sapphire, but you can still get Latios and Latios. But you gotta choose one.
Simply
You
because of
can't
how many
get both.
components were changed. Nearly every area looks
is
slightly
crazy
different than it did
and
in
tough.
Ruby and Sapphire. So I'll be covering some of the areas where things were changed most of all. Rustboro City received a real makeover, with its colors in Emerald being much lighter than in Ruby and Sapphire. Now, you wouldn't really be able to tell here because of the fog anyway, but once you remove the fog, you can see how drastically different Rust Surf Tunnel looked from Ruby and Sapphire to Emerald. And I must say thank goodness, because Ruby and Sapphire's version really is an eyesore. Not that I have a problem with the color green or anything, but this color scheme looks like it belongs in Gen 2, not Gen 3. A route that received significant change would be Route 113. The patches of soil were made smaller, the rocks have slight design changes, and there have been a few more that we'll cover in more detail later. Route 118 had large areas of rock removed and replaced with trees, and Moss Deep Space Center was also completely redesigned. Shoal Cave is also a lot darker in color. Room 4 of Seafloor Cabin also looks completely different for some reason. The last place we're going to look at would be the Cave of Origin, which now only has... So we've only really looked at the areas where the already existing features were changed. Now we're going to take a look at places that had entirely new things added, as well as new areas that can only be accessed in Emerald. Route 111 has the addition of the Trainer Hill, which is just another battling facility at face value, but I'll talk about it in more detail once I eventually get onto Generation 3 regional differences. Instead of finding the root and claw fossils at the top of Route 111, you now find them in the newly added Mirage Tower on the same route. It's now possible to obtain both of these fossils,
Emerald is
but you'll
so
have to
unique
access the
now.
newly added Desert Underpass after getting the National Dex. This new area also has Wild Ditto, which can't be found in Ruby and Sapphire. At the end of the Desert Underpass, you'll find the fossil that you didn't pick up in Mirage Tower. Event-only locations were also added to Emerald, the first of which would be Birth Island through the Aurora ticket, which is where you can now find Deoxys, a Pokemon completely unavailable in Ruby and Sapphire. Deoxys takes on the speed form by default in Emerald, whereas in Ruby and Sapphire it takes on its normal form. Following on from Fire Red and Leaf Green, players of Emerald can now get the Mystic tickets at an event and access Naval Rock, which is where you can find Ho-Oh and Lugia. The final event-only location added to Emerald would be Faraway Island, the location of Mew, which can be accessed if you have the old sea map. Strangely enough, this event isn't actually in Fire Red and Leaf Green at all. Though, Emerald isn't much better, because even though it's technically in the game, the old sea map was never distributed in English versions at all, so Mew remained as elusive as ever. Altering Cave from Fire Red and Leaf Green is also a new addition to the Hoenn region, being found on Route 103 after the player enters the Hall of Fame. Altering Cave was fully planned to be used as a spot to feature Pokemon that couldn't be found elsewhere through Mystery Gift at events. Well, at least that was the plan for Fire Red and Leaf Green, but it was never made use of. So this cave will forever remain the domain of Zubat. What confuses me is that in Emerald, they made all the Pokemon planned for Altering Cave available in different areas, but they still decided to put it in the game, when at that point it was clear it wasn't going to be used at all. But let's see where these Pokemon actually were made available. In Emerald, after you receive the National Pokedex, the new areas 5 and 6 of the Safari Zone are made accessible, which are home to Pokemon that you couldn't find in Ruby and Sapphire. Area 5 contains Hoothoot, Spinarak, Mareep, Sunkern, Gligar, Snubbull, Stantler, as well as the Wooper and Remoraid lines. Area 6 has...
Bruh, Emerald is way better than Ruby and Sapphire, bruh. In my opinion.
Hoothoot, Leddyba, Aipom, Sunkern, Pineco, Teddiursa, Houndour, Miltank, and Shuckle. Another
I want
noticeable
Miltank.
change would be the replacement of all of the contest holes, except for Lilycoves, were replaced by Battle Tents. Battle Tents are actually practiced for the newly added Battle Frontier, which is in the same location as the Battle Tower was in Ruby and Sapphire.
Oh.
Scott, a new character who follows you around during the main story, owns the Battle Frontier, and will invite you when you become champion. The Battle Frontier has 7 facilities, being the Battle Tower, Palace, Factory, Pyramid, Dome, Arena, and Pike. Each facility
This is
has
gonna be a
Frontier Brain,
fun
which is kind of like a gym
series,
leader,
bruh.
except they're much more challenging
Emerald
to
is
get
gonna
to.
be fun.
These would include Salon Maiden Annabelle, Palace Maven Spencer, Factory Head Nolan, Pyramid King Brandon, Dome Ace Tucker, Arena
This is gonna be
Tycoon
fun.
Martha,
Emerald is
Pike
gonna be
Queen
fun,
Lucy.
bruh.
When you beat each Frontier Brain once, you receive a silver, and if you beat them twice, you get a gold symbol. Scott will also give you special items as you win more battles and earn more symbols. By clearing rounds of each facility, you earn battle points, or BP. You can exchange BP for secret base items that can't be found anywhere else, and other useful items. There are
Wow.
also 3 Pokemon available here that you can't find in Ruby and Sapphire. These Pokemon would be Smeargle, which can be found in the newly added Artisan Cave, along with stat boosting items. The second would be Sudowoodo, which can be awakened with the Whalmer Pale close to the Battle Palace. And the last would be Meowth, which can be obtained through a trade for a Skitty. And naturally, other in-game trades would change from what they were in Ruby and Sapphire. Another area that received a new addition would be this area in Jagged Pass, which we did touch on a little earlier, but to explain what this is, we'll have to go through the changes made to the main story. Emerald's story in relation to the evil teams is pretty much a mix of Ruby and Sapphire's. Team Aqua and Magma now share the whole evil team spotlight. They both try and control the legendary Pokemon to achieve the goals set in the first game. Like in Sapphire, Team Aqua are causing trouble in Petalburg Wood. as well as Oceanic Museum, Mount Pyre, the Lily Cove Hideout, and finally Seafloor Cabin when trying to awaken Kyogre. Like in Ruby, Team Magma caused trouble at Mount Chimney, and a new area that they appear would be the Moss Deep Space Center, where they take over the building, and to stop them you have to team up with Steven. And their hideout was moved to a hidden cave on Jagged Pass, which is also now where Groudon is awakened. Once the legendary Pokemon are on the loose, a similar crisis happens to that of Ruby and Sapphire. The weather goes completely out of control, but this time it's worse, because Groudon and Kyogre have engaged in a huge battle in the center of Sootopolis City. Gotta say, Kyogre kinda has the advantage here. Steven takes you to the Cave of Origin like in the originals, but instead of going in there to calm the legendary Pokemon, you go in there to seek the help of Wallace. After this, you end up going to Sky Pillar to awaken Rayquaza. The layout of Sky Pillar was actually changed to make it a lot easier, but it reverts back to what it was in Ruby and Sapphire later on. An awesome cutscene plays, and it's pretty much just Rayquaza telling Groudon and Kyogre to shut up. But hey, it works. It's actually possible to now go back to Sky Pillar and catch Rayquaza before challenging the Elite Four, with it still being at level 70 like in Ruby and Sapphire. The world is back to normal and you're free to challenge the 8th gym, except this time, Wallace is replaced by Juan as the gym leader. This was the only gym leader that was replaced, but the gym leaders of Hoenn also did receive major changes to their teams, and in some cases the layout of their gyms was completely redone. In Emerald, you can also rematch the gym leaders after receiving the national decks, with their teams gradually changing each time you rematch them. As for the Elite Four, they had their teams changed too, and Wallace replaced Steven as the champion of Hoenn. But you may be wondering what happened to Steven. Well, after you enter the Hall of Fame, he can now be found in a new area of Meteor Falls, which now sports a grey colour instead of beige. Steven's team is the same as the one he used in Ruby and Sapphire, but at much higher levels. There were also lots of tiny changes made to the way some things work in Emerald. For example, a group of berries were changed so that they reduce the EVs on a Pokemon and increase its friendship, whereas before they were just plain old Pokeblock ingredients. Some abilities were also changed to have out-of-battle effects. Examples would include Static being changed to make encounters with electric types more common, and Magnet Pull being changed to make encounters with steel type Pokemon more common. The way the ability pickup works was also changed, with the items you can obtain now varying depending on the level of your Pokemon. Like Fire Red and Leaf Green, Emerald can make use of the wireless adapter. However, unlike Ruby and Sapphire, it's not compatible with the e-reader anymore. This is why the e-reader trainer house in Moss Deep City was changed to feature the mini-games Pokemon Jump and Dodrio Berry picking instead. The option for Mystery Gift is added, and the party interface looks more similar to the one used in Fire Red and Leaf Green. The general font was also changed, which also more closely resembles the font used in Fire Red and Leaf Green too. The color of the summary screen also changed from purple to green. The bag interface is also changed, and all items now have bag sprites. Another really tiny change would be that the NPC that blocks your path in Little Root Town is now a boy instead of a girl. While Emerald fixed some bugs that were present in Ruby and Sapphire, as is the case with pretty much all sequels, there is one unfixable bug that only occurs in Pokemon Emerald and not Ruby and Sapphire. It may be a little bit confusing, and I'm not entirely convinced that I understand it amazingly well myself, but let's go with it. In Ruby and Sapphire, a pseudo-random number generator is used to determine what values are applied to any Pokemon you encounter.
Wow, Meryl.
This includes stuff like natures, IVs, and whether or not the Pokemon is shiny. At any one instant, all these frames are just kind of flying around, and when you encounter a Pokemon, the frame that occurred at that moment is applied to the Pokemon. Normally,
Didn't
these
even know
frames
that.
are arranged in a massive list that starts at a different
I'm just
point each time you
quiet
start
because
the
I'm
game.
actually
but with Emerald,
focusing
it's
on this.
broken. So the list always starts in the same place whenever you start up the game. This can lead to RNG clones, and is most commonly used to soft shiny legendary Pokemon. There are just a few more little changes that we need to cover before wrapping up. Existing trainers had their teams changed, and a lot of new trainers were added to areas too. It's now also possible to get into random double battles with unrelated trainers, whereas before, double battles were reserved for trainers that always battled as a pair, such as couples or twins. Wally's team didn't change, but he's now battled at the beginning of Victory Road instead of at the end. An odd change would be that the Poochyena chasing Professor Birch at the beginning of the game is changed to a Zigzagoon. For some reason, the movers Machoke were also changed to Vigoroth too. A trio of new NPCs were added to the Lily Cove Pokemon Center. Only one will appear in each game, and which one appears is based on your trainer ID. There's the contest lady, who just takes Pokeblocks from you. That's it. She doesn't even give you anything in return. Rude. There's a favor lady who takes certain items from you and will give you vitamins in return. And the quiz lady will ask you questions and give out prizes if you answer correctly. In Emerald, the Trainer's Eyes feature is replaced by the match call option, which allows you to call trainers like you could in Generation 2. This edition also lets other people call you during the main story too. And for some bizarre reason, when unlocking the Regis in the sealed chamber, you now have to have Wailord and Relic Hand in different positions in the party. The method used to open the individual doors to the Regis was also altered. But I think we're just about done. Those were what I believe to be old version differences in Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald. If you enjoyed this series and would like to see...
Emerald is way better though. Alright, so I decided to do, and my final question is nothing. But I'm real download the game, so TK is out.